All the Ayurvedic doctors are like, we talked about this decades ago. We landed in America and said, all these things that are wrong, you could use turmeric for that. And we were laughed at. So it's really nice to have our moment where ancestral wisdom is coming forward and being revered and trusted and known to be the original wisdom.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing, and another incredible guest here today. I've been looking forward to this conversation, integrating all things spiritual, all things neurological, and a little spice of some scientific facts, integrating the biology of this incredible herb or root that you want to call turmeric. I want to welcome to the podcast Dr. Shivani Gupta, an Ayurvedic specialist, and has a doctorate in the very root that we speak on, turmeric. Welcome to the podcast, my dear friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is exciting times that we can meet on the interweb and have these conversations.
Yes.
So missed, and many people just don't realize how powerful this is. This is like instant access.
True. Very true.
So how about we start with a little summation, because we have a time frame, but somehow give us a little background on how you got to this point, and then we're going to deep dive more into the mastery that you share with the world through your own offerings.
Sure. So I was born into an Indian household, immigrant family in Houston, Texas, and I grew up living in two worlds. So in America, we would go to Taco Bell and McDonald's and these places after school on our way home. And when I went to India, it was a completely different experience. I'd be living with my grandmother. If I got sick or hurt, she'd reach into the spice cabinet to heal us. She was always creating oils and massaging our heads for hair health and treating us completely differently. And when I came back to the US, if I got sick, it was pediatrician, antibiotics, go back to school. And you'd go to the drugstore for solutions. And so growing up, I always thought, gosh, I live in two worlds, two languages, two cultures. When I'm in my house, I'm Indian. When I'm outside my house, I'm American. When I go to India, it's completely different. I don't understand. And so I always tried to understand what's right, who's right, East or West. And by the time I hit middle school, I realized, you know what? I just want to be well, and I just want others to be well, and I need to figure this out. And around that time, I started taking antibiotics chronically through high school, leading up to me getting to college and feeling like, you know what? I don't have a gut. Like, I don't have gut health. I don't have immune health. I have no defense system against what comes to me and around me. And that led me to, on a trip to India at that time, realizing, you know what? I'm kind of sick of the Western way of treating my health. It's not working. So I had this moment where I was meeting with a Dr. Gupta who's about to prescribe me 13 medications. And this voice came screaming out of me that was like, no, we're not doing that anymore. And I looked at my parents and I said, you know what? We have to try a different way. We're in the land of Ayurveda. So I went on this quest through India, studying Ayurveda, sitting at the guru's feet and just learning. And really, I was skeptical at the time. I wanted to know, does Ayurveda work? Or are you guys a bunch of liars who are making this up? And as I sat there, I realized, wow, these are the true wise men and women who are bringing this wisdom forth, this lineage forth. Ayurveda is over 5,000 years old. It's a system of health, healing, and medicine. And the plants and the herbs and the toolkit they were reaching into was foreign to me, but it soon became the toolkit I needed the most to heal myself. And so once I did, I realized, wow, I can have an immune system of steel. I can repair my gut health. I can build any level of health and vibrancy that I want. And so I went on to study it. I did my master's in Ayurvedic Sciences. Then my advisor said, I really think you should get a Ph.D. It'll help you for the books and things you want to write to impact the world. And so he said, pick a topic. And I really loved turmeric because I was fascinated by how one spice could do all those things. In America, we're told buy one medicine for one problem. How could one plant have such healing properties? And so I ended up embarking on my PhD dissertation on it, fell in love with it. And then, of course, I realized, let me create solutions for the world. And that's been my journey ever since.
Wow. You had me at hello. It's such a great integration. I feel like a lot more people are becoming more aware of the innate self-healing that we all have, and having people like yourself being able to guide them on a path of remembrance through these ancient techniques, and using, the simplicity of something like turmeric, which is dismissed by so many households, yet is one of the most potent antioxidants of the face of the earth.
Right.
It's right there. Now, of course, I would probably suggest acquiring the highest purity of such root, in evidence of your pursuit of mastery, is getting the most potent active equivalent to that. And that would probably come from your supplementation or your offerings that you share through your own website, and you share people in through that discovery through supplementation and in just nutrition, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I teach people in two ways right now. And I'm sure I will evolve and grow with that over my decades as well. But for now, as Dr. Shivani, I get to teach online. I have programs. I'm writing a book for Hay House, which is my whole life dream, that I get to write a book for a real publisher. So I'm very excited about it. And then about 10 years ago, when I finished the PhD, I thought, well, why is Western medicine not using turmeric as an anti-inflammatory? Like, it's such a powerful anti-inflammatory. This is so easy. And I realized they don't have a supplement they can trust that's built in the way that they need to see it. So I just sought out to do that. I said, let me source a clean, medical grade, really potent form of curcumin. Let me develop and produce it in the United States, third party tested, and then let me supply it to them just for their category. So they'll see that this is built for them and they can safely offer it. And at that time, when the orthopedic surgeons gave it to their patients, they were like, this really works. We are shocked. And I was like, well, that was my intention. I also was shocked that it worked that well. I knew it would work, but I didn't expect the level of response. And so that's been my work for 10 years. It's a mountain to climb, but it's really fun when one doctor says yes to you, and then his or her thousands of patients are impacted. So that's my work. And then now I get to teach it online and say, hey, everyone, we're all aging. We're all going to get more inflamed and need more antioxidant support as we age. Anyone with any pain or inflammation in the body, let's use this, and let me then teach you about sleep and every other aspect of reducing inflammation in the body.
Yeah, it's like that symbiotic relationship you have with your psyche and the neuroplasticity of this soft technology you call the human flesh. Yeah. So now it's like, okay, let's commandeer that with an understanding of, the placebo effect is quite potent, and understanding that information that you get and show evidence of how your body can repair itself almost instantaneously using these ingredients that are ancient and have been nurtured and sacred for so many indigenous cultures for thousands of years. So your love affair with turmeric, speak more on that and share with us some of the profound effects, other than it's a supernatural charge to self-healing.
Absolutely. So turmeric is a very powerful anti-inflammatory. That's the big first one. And so there's over 17,000 scientific studies and papers in PubMed talking about it, because the whole scientific community is trying to understand, how is it that this one plant affects so many of our different inflammatory pathways? And so my experience with it is, when it comes to pain, it goes after the big problems first, then the mid-size, and then the smaller problems. It has this innate intelligence to it. Goes after the bad, but not after the good, leaves all the good stuff intact. So inflammation is the first key. Then it's a powerful antioxidant. So we know that oxidative stress is causing inflammation. Oxidation of our system over time is what's causing us to feel rusty and stiff and not as great. And so addressing that oxidation is really a good thing that turmeric does very well. Mm-hmm. But then it does so much more. It's antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, anti-H. pylori, anti-candida, anti-obesity, which is a big one. We get in these catch-22s when it comes to our health. We're obese, thus we're inflamed. We're inflamed, thus we're obese. And so to get out of that cycle is really important, because that affects so many other things downstream: heart health, insulin sensitivity, and those kinds of things. We know that curcumin from turmeric is the most important part. And let me say that again. Curcumin from turmeric is the piece of turmeric that we've studied the most and know that it's most effective at reducing inflammation. I don't want to say it's the most important because I know in this lifetime, in that other 97%, we're going to find some great discoveries because non-curcuminoid turmeric still has great benefits. But within turmeric, the plant, using it in its whole form has benefits. People see a lot of benefits. But when you're cooking with it, make sure you're using black pepper or a healthy fat to increase that absorption. And then when we talk about extracts, you can source from that 3% of the turmeric plant that exact extract can come into different potencies. And so I sourced a 95 to 98% grade potency of curcumin. Make sure when you're sourcing curcumin supplements, you really pay attention to what you're getting. A lot of them will just say curcuma longa, which is the plant name. And then you're not getting that high dose of that extract at a full 500 milligrams in the right proportion. And so that's been a lot of my education, is just let's not waste our time and money. Let's get the result. Let's reduce that inflammation. Some other aspects of turmeric that I love are when we're out there and in our bodies, as we age, we're creating something called zombie cells. And those zombie cells just run around and cause damage within us. And then our body slows down. It doesn't have the ability to repair mitochondria, cellular health, all these things. And curcumin is like the ultimate janitor. So it goes in there and cleans out house, gets rid of what doesn't belong, causes cell apoptosis. The things that are meant to go will go. And that to me is really important because as we're aging, a lot of times we're slowing down, but we don't understand why. And so if we could have something come in there and create that level of longevity and vibrancy and vitality that we want, why wouldn't we make that investment? And turmeric is just one great solution out of all the solutions we can do for that.
Yeah. I mean, clearly from what you're speaking of, it's quite evident. I know this, but just for the audience, I mean, we're working on, recharging and activating the microbiome so it's more efficient. Furthermore, looking at what sort of gene expression is being activated through the permission and absorption of turmeric. I would love for you to share with the audience the relevance and the activation, because when you take turmeric by itself, it's almost null and void, and you don't get the absorption level that you do when you accompany it with this incredible pairing of black pepper. If you could share with the audience, what is the catalyst that makes that so effective and the absorption level almost at 100%?
Sure. So we know that turmeric is actually very hard for the body to absorb. And that's why in ancient Indian cultures, we never used raw turmeric as it was. We might pickle it and use it in different ways. And then when you concentrate raw turmeric into the spice, that's a dried up spice, but it has all the benefits of turmeric that I'm describing. And we knew in the ancient cultures and in the Indian culture, you have to add black pepper or a healthy fat to increase the absorption. And I worked in the lab in Houston where the scientists discovered that curcumin plus black pepper, the black pepper increases that absorption 2,000%. So there's a whole team black pepper. I'm on team black pepper. Then there's a whole team healthy fat. And so we know curcumin's also lipophilic. And so a lot of times I tell people, look, focus on getting your turmeric in with any healthy fat, coconut oil, butter, ghee. Any Indian cooking would have had healthy fat in it. And so we know that when you add that fat with the cooking, you're going to increase that absorption as well. And what we need to understand about turmeric is when you're sourcing that extraction, a lot of times when it comes to supplementation right now, a lot of people just build companies to make a profit. Like the goal is, oh, turmeric is really hot right now. Let's just add a turmeric supplement. And so many people have sent me their labels on their bottles and they'll say curcuma longa, turmeric, 1,500 milligrams. I'm like, you could have bought turmeric for $3 at the grocery store. You didn't have to encapsulate it and put it into the body in that way. And so that's where I think it's so important that we look at, like I said, companies with integrity, companies who are looking to create something, because our goal is actually potency and creating a change in the body. But make sure that it has black pepper or a healthy fat. I've also seen supplements made without either. And I laugh because I'm like, how could you not know the basics of turmeric?
Yeah, I think the supplement world is just full of things that are not bioavailable.
Yeah.
And and they don't create an environment for the absorption of such. I mean, I've been taking supplements for the better part of 40 years. I started taking them when I was 10 years old, embarking on powerlifting and bodybuilding for a 10-year cycle. Furthermore, I'm like a little bit of a fanboy even 40 years later. But the whole point of it was, what is the foundational elements that make it viable, that make it bioavailable?
Correct.
How does it absorb into the system? And furthermore, what would be the components of turmeric, and what sort of genes do they activate within the body? What pathways are we getting the most benefit from?
Two big ones that turmeric impacts, which is why it's being studied the most, are TNF alpha and F kappa B. And so these are main pathways that when turmeric impacts those, it has a cascading effect on so many other pathways in the system. It also affects COX and LOX, so interleukin 6, interleukin 9, COX-2 inhibitor. So there's a lot of different pathways. And it's interesting to me how many pathways. Yes, ginger is a very powerful anti-inflammatory. Yes, we can take anti-inflammatories to knock out pain. But turmeric has this approach. And it's interesting. I was working with a professor of genetics at Clemson University. And when he met me, he said, I'm really interested in studying turmeric because when I was studying DNA, it's interesting how many different genes are affected by turmeric. I was surprised because turmeric kept coming up. And I said, I know, let's study this together. So we're doing a project on all the different genes affected by turmeric, and we're mapping that together using supercomputers because there's so much there. And it's interesting because when you go to an Ayurveda conference, all the Ayurvedic doctors are like, we talked about this decades ago. We landed in America and said, all these things that are wrong, you could use turmeric for that. And we were laughed at. So it's really nice to have our moment where ancestral wisdom is coming forward and being revered and trusted and known to be the original wisdom. And so that too is so fun with turmeric because Ayurveda already knew this,
Oh, of course. I mean, it's ancient wisdom teaching, right? The most potent, effective way for self-healing is energy potential. And I mean, how you form that is with your own attention intention. And it's still to this day, in thousands and thousands of years later, Taoist alchemy is second to none. Yes, I'm a fanboy being a priest, but furthermore, it's evident, it's self-evident, self-mastery, and your ability to turn water into wine, furthermore, lead into gold, is evident with that alchemical processes. So I'm interested, you ingest it and you have a certain effect on the microbiome. What about an external effect on the self-receptors within the dermal layer that, furthermore, most people talk about this stuff? One of my favorite Keebler gnomes by the name of Bruce Lipton loves to speak on the effects of epigenetics and the state of your environment.
True.
And what that does from a Taoist perspective, you use the self-receptors to induce a alchemical response within the pituitary thalamus and pineal gland, and they use the culture medium of the blood to shuttle that information to turn on and off gene expression. And this is the mastery that's been around thousands of years, and also within your own Vedic practices, very similar to a Taoist alchemical process. So I ponder the question, my dear friend, if you take this in some type of absorption form, how would you absorb it through the skin, and what value would that have?
Sure. I love how I've never spoken to someone like you. So it's like, I feel like we can go in so many directions in the conversation. Because yes, in Ayurveda, it's very much a conversation around your spiritual body as well as your physical, mental, emotional body. And so we teach really the root of Ayurveda is bringing body, mind, and spirit into alignment. And that's the dream. That's the goal. That's what everything we're doing works towards, is that alignment. And people ask me sometimes, is Ayurveda spiritual? I'm like, that's actually the whole point, is if you can get body healthy and vibrant and aligned, and not too rajasic, tamasic, or sattvic. Those are some words we use. Not too agitated, too dull, but just right. if you can get your doshas balanced, your mind body constitutions in alignment, you're not too imbalanced in any of the elements, then all of a sudden the alignment comes. And so when it comes to turmeric, your question is like, does it absorb through the skin? Does it have a topical impact? Yes. In ancient India, that's actually how we used it the most was, oh, you have a cut, it's antibacterial. Oh, you have a pain, let's just put it on that elbow. And so it does absorb very well through the skin. Typically, you're going to use a yogurt for that, or you're going to use an oil. We love ghee the most, being Indian. So ghee, butter, any of these things you would just take, or coconut oil even, and let it absorb right in. And we know that the skin is the largest organ of the body. And so why not put it right where it's needed so it'll do the job right there? And I've had my grandma do that to me many times when I was little. It was turmeric on the elbow, or just eat straight turmeric powder in some oil heated up at night because you have a cough, or turmeric in your whole milk. When we talk about skinny lattes now and turmeric lattes, we're wasting our time. We needed that full fat in that beverage to get those benefits. And so my job is just to bring forward the idea that Ayurveda exists and Ayurveda has these incredible tools, but to use them in the right way to get the full benefits.
Now, it brings an interesting question to my mind about how things, equal out this symbiotic relationship within Taoism, yin and yang. Yin is the absorption of all colors, yang is the emission of all colors, and your job or your path as a Taoist seeker is to find the center point we call the primordial mother, the Wu Ji, which is the basically perfection manifest. And this would be the unified state. Furthermore, a physicist might refer to it as a 0 point, the entanglement, the super juice that comes from the, event horizon of a black hole. I mean, we can go down this path, but that center point is so critical, and the balance and the harmony that you've spoken on, and what the Taoist path is equal to. Now, when you speak on, oh my goodness, the turmeric effects, how will that level it out? Like, I think a lot of people are misguided when they go down a ketosis sort of ketogenic diet, and they start eating fat and protein, and they lose sight of the actual quality. I refer to the audience remembering that Dr. Gupta would speak on this through this conversation. Quality is better than quantity. Now, with that, I would love you to speak on whether there's a remedy within turmeric that can cancel out the inflammatory effects of seed oil.
Ayurveda says food first, and it says lifestyle and detox first. Really, it says gut first. So in Ayurveda, we're pretty obsessed with what I call like the 6 pillars of health. Seed oils, we know, are going to cause so much oxidative stress in the system. It's going to cause damage. It's going to cause microbiome damage. We know it's going to inflame the entire system. And we also know that, unfortunately, in modern day times, we're putting a lot of ingredients that are bad and foreign, like seed oils, into the system. And so I think about that a lot, which is how many insults do you want to give to the body before the body starts generating disease, dis-ease in its system, and starts asking you to instead put in good things. And so a lot of us know in modern day times that our fast food, foods made outside in restaurants that are fried in bad oils that are overused, a lot of these things are insults to the system. Even if you're doing a ketogenic diet, that doesn't mean that you can put in bad quality foods or fried foods, or you can just willy-nilly eat whatever you want. It's still about achieving ketosis in a healthy way. And on my podcast, I've been interviewing some great people to understand this better. And I asked, can you be vegetarian and do ketogenic diet? That's hard. And they'll say, you know what, it's actually about achieving ketosis. And we can use fasting, fitness, and different tools to achieve ketosis for periods of time. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be a high fat, high cheese, high meat diet or something like that. We can actually really focus on what's good for our individual body to achieve our own health goals. And so that's where I like to come at it with people is let's talk about an Ayurveda consultation. Let's talk about the lifestyle practices and then the right kind of dietary practices, even above what you're going to eat. Let's talk about how you're going to eat and when you're going to eat. And then we can talk about what you are actually eating and the energy you bring to that food, the intention you bring to that food. Are you in fight or flight when you eat that food? And by doing all those different things, all of a sudden we're bringing more alignment to each action, which is going to help bring us more alignment and peace overall.
Amen to that. You had me at hello. This is an interesting, actually, let me plug this in because the worst thing I want to do is be in mid-sentence and the laptop dies.
Yeah.
So I think what I was, my main point of reference was how turmeric could cancel out the inflammation of the toxicity of that seed oil, because it's such an assault on the mitochondria. Yeah. And furthermore, I mean, I think you're referencing what Taoists and we use as our self-mastery is what we call resting, which for the rest of the world, we'd call it fasting. And this is a mastery that really activates the inner workings of your superpowers from the regeneration, the repurposing of, as you put it, zombie cells, and then healing, because literally everything in your body can be healed through this processes. A path of a Taoist is a meal every other day, and you're going to have more energy than shooting up like 5 lines of Coke and drinking coffee for days on end. You will have energy beyond energy, and have a misrepresentation in your psychological mind that how is this even possible? Yet you're nurturing the hypertrophy of the muscle tissue through the right type of measurement of hot and cold exposure, which we talk about, that the yin and yang processes, diving deep into heat, deep into cold, and how that can be integrated to maximize the hormonal cascade of your body. And this is the mastery that is been going on for thousands of years in all these indigenous practices. So does turmeric, is there evidence of turmeric canceling the inflammation that seed oil could get? It's like if someone's going to go, look, I'm going to eat fries, I'm going to eat a burger, could they take that as a remedy to cancel out the effects of that within their own diet if they had to?
It's a good question. So on the way to nice dinners, if I'm going to what I call a doctor dinner, where I'm going to have a glass of wine, some gluten-free pasta with all the Parmesan and all the fun, on the way, I always take 2 turmerics. Why? Because I want to mitigate the negative effects of what I'm about to do. We know alcohol is inflammatory. We know sugar is inflammatory. Gluten-free pasta is better than pasta, quote unquote, depending on your own gut, your own microbiome, and your own health, but not necessarily. Who knows what else is in there instead of whole grain wheat. So I don't consider it a canceling out. I think it's supporting the mitigation, but I don't think we can run around and eat garbage and assume that turmeric will fully equal it out. So maybe there's a 70%, 80%, but that doesn't justify the behavior fully. So when I go out like that, I've already got a full plan in place of, okay, well, how are we going to support the gut microbiome all day? Like you're talking about fasting. Next morning, ginger lemon tea. Let's keep clearing and detoxing the system and supporting what we did. But can we high dose and utilize turmeric as a support to mitigate a lot of what we do? Yes, we can.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I do it. I do plan ahead and say, you know what? I know what you're about to do. Why don't we double up on turmeric pre and post what you're about to do?
Yeah, I mean, referring back to what we call resting, and you refer to it as fasting, it's such a powerful mastery that it has been around for thousands of years. And that, I've never seen any faster healing from someone with an alcoholic fatty liver or non-alcoholic fatty liver, which is basically 80% of American population right now is affected by this sort of deficiency, insulin resistance. And so, you have this like literally healing. Normally, if I take someone on a process, he's over, 5 to normally 9-day process, you will see blood work that will blow your mind and say, hang on a second, you had a distraught liver function that was equivalent to a career alcoholic for the last 30 years. And within less than 2 weeks, it's not even the same blood work. And I think that autophagy and what we're doing, and I kind of was given this message that maybe adding your turmeric mastery on top of that journey, because it will have zero effect on the fasting aspect.
For sure.
What are your thoughts on integrating that into a protocol?
I am a very turmeric first person because my whole PhD was on turmeric. So it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to incorporate turmeric. The fact that it goes in there causes cell apoptosis, causes suicide of the cells that don't belong is key. The fact that it's going to clean out the zombie cells, it's going to clean house and kill off what doesn't belong. It's microbiome supportive, helps support that gut lining, which we know we want to heal when we're doing a fasting. The fact that it's antibacterial, antifungal, anti-candida, anti-H. pylori, I'm like, you get all that out of there and defend me from it when it's coming at me. So as we're dealing with so many different viruses and things going on, I use it as my first defense support. And when we're fasting, what we're trying to do is really clear the system. It's like the ultimate detox. You're allowing your body to go in there and heal everything that it needs to heal. So turmeric is probably the ultimate support alongside fasting to create that healing environment, because while you're doing that rest, as you're calling it, you're going in there and cleaning house with this incredible tool that knows how to mine and clear out the system at the same time. So to me, I'm a very turmeric first person. And then once I know my turmeric's doing the job, okay, now let's talk about vitamin D, probiotics, sleep, self-care tools that detox. Like Ayurveda, I teach about a tongue scraper and how using a copper tongue scraper daily is a detox method to support gut health, gut digestive fire, and detox. So you can definitely be multi-system approach with it. But yes, during what you're talking about, ketogenic, fasting, fitness, these ideas, I think turmeric can play a very pivotal, vital role.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. It's kind of like I've been personally using it for many years, and it excites me because it has such a profound effect. It's through your own admission as a specialist in this incredible remedy for self-healing, that adding as an amplifier to that autophagy will be like I refer to autophagy as like the Roomba of dysfunction. You just let it go and it will devour all the dysfunction within the physical body, i.e. the cell.
Yeah.
And you'll start seeing regeneration that's on all the organs. I mean, some people refer to certain organs that it starts with, but every single organ in the body can regenerate itself. Whereas there used to be that old school mother's tale of only the liver can regenerate. Now every organ can regenerate. Furthermore, within a resting state, it starts with the heart, it starts with the liver, it starts with the kidneys, and you'll start to see magnification of that. So for all those people following this dialogue and having a basic understanding, integrating turmeric to their protocols will have a profound effect of healing.
True. Very true.
And so now let's look at the spiritual aspect, even though that's not something that most people ask you about, even though it's a very integrated part of your life and it has been for your whole life. How would you integrate that into a path of self-healing? Maybe you're thinking about it being a broader scope for you in the future through your own teaching, that you're going to start adding more deep understanding of the spiritual path. Share with us a little bit more about your own self-discovery.
Absolutely. So I grew up in an all Hindu family, and growing up, we'd go to temple, we'd learn about the gods and all these things. And what's interesting is I grew up also going to Christian schools. And so going to Christian schools, I learned all about the Bible, about Jesus, and all the stories I heard, I could correlate directly back to Hindu stories. I was like, oh, a baby in a basket, we had that floating down the river. Oh, a cleansing of the earth, we have Kali Yuga. Like we have all these concepts in Hinduism. And fast forward, as I studied Ayurveda, I realized Ayurveda is a system of health and healing, but it's also a spiritual system, because the goal is body, mind, and spirit into alignment so you can become one with God or universal energy, whatever you would like to call it. We need to get rid of the interference. And so I don't get to talk about that much because I'm teaching Western doctors about the powers of turmeric for medical practices. Then I'm teaching it within functional medicine and all the alternative, chiropractic, acupuncturist space. That's a little bit more open. And then finally, I do get to teach about it online now. So with everyone, I can kind of, in my private Facebook groups and Instagram and kind of these spaces, say, my path with Ayurveda has led me to something I didn't expect, which is now when I take my Ayurveda training and truly practice it in my life, I can feel this level of alignment that's like pure energy, pure power, pure manifesting power, pure crystal clear energy towards my dreams and goals that feels very irrefutable. So now when I sit down to do my work is impact the world, show what Ayurveda can do. I get to do that by creating turmeric supplements and different supplements and teas. That's my play kit that I get to play with and formulate within. So those are the initial tools I've had the opportunity and I don't even know the word for it, the gift of getting to share with the world. Then I have this incredible team of women around me who support me in getting to have a podcast and teach online to the world. But truly, I have this new, almost like it's a gold within me, this golden energy that I utilize to manifest what I want. So I have true trust and faith now. So when I say I got to have a Hay House book, I talked to God and I had a whole conversation and I said, God, in the next 10 years, this is happening. This will happen in this earth life. You're going to give it to me now or in 10 years. And what happens? It happened in the now last year. And I was like, whoa, okay, that was a really great one. Now let's do the next one. And so it's such a beautiful, I wouldn't even call it a roller coaster. It's like a magic carpet ride. If you can bring yourself into total alignment with your spiritual journey and have that peace and trust and faith. And so I've had this opportunity to study something called Priestess Path over the last couple of years, which is a completely different level of spirituality and unfoldment. Got to really dive into studying with my goddess Durga, and really carry that energy forward into the world. So I would say I'm still a student of spirituality for the rest of my life, but those studies interest me even more than the Ayurveda now, because the Ayurveda was the platform stepping stone into having the vibration to now do this work.
It's so funny you reference the element of gold. It's such a high level of ascension and becomes evident. I mean, even looking at your auric field, there is quite a large element of gold that emanates from your dead center, what you would refer to as chakras. But then there's an interesting relationship between, Ganesh and Jesus Christ, which I find really interesting, that they're evident within your field. That seems to sort of correlate with a lot of the things that we speak of, and the actual symbol of the cross, which it's strange that these things come up when you have a very clear, conscious devotion to more indigenous relationships with other ancient priestess spirits, but and then Shakti, which I don't understand that, which is, again, I just look at the energy and then repeat the information that starts to emanate from the individual. And then we go deeper into the elements where I look at what you would call the chakras. Yeah. We call them dantians, which is elixir field. And that has an excess or deficiency of the emotion to virtue. And then you start to really identify the person's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual state. I mean, normally I can get the full picture within about 30 seconds. And this is where people get a little, whoa, this is kind of crazy. What, you don't know me. How is that possible? Yeah. It's all in the field of this consciousness we call the divine, what we call the primordial mother. Furthermore, Buddha, Tao, God, universe. Do you want to speak on that? Is there any relevance?
Yeah, there is. Ganeshji is one of my gods. I always say to Ganeshji, please remove all obstacles. And I
mean, I'm laughing because you can't make that. I've been doing this almost 40 years, and I have my personality that even with the mastery of we call the substance, the Fa Jing, where we're able to attune to this energy pulpability. It never, ever, ever ceases to amaze me when you read into these energies, because they're right there. And as you develop your clear senses, they're very evident.
True. Very true. So Ganeshji is one of my favorites. My first clothing line, the elephant symbol I designed, was based on Ganesh, because He's the remover of all obstacles. He's the god of kindness. So if we're going to step forward with kindness, why wouldn't you bring the energy of Ganeshji? And the priestess path that I've studied on is Mary Magdalene's energy. So I have had, Jesus come into some of our meditations and things like that. And I studied Christianity with such love and reverence. So it makes sense that I could have many cultures and religions. I studied world religions. I think it's incredible, the ancient wisdom and potency of that knowledge that sits in every religion. So why not love all of them? Like how could we even fight about this topic? It's universal energy and we're just expressing it in different ways. I don't even understand arguments on between factions of people. It makes no sense to me. And then when it comes to the chakras, that's so cool that you can read them, because very much when I tune into people to do an Ayurveda consultation, I'm actually just I'm like a medical intuitive more than the data that I'm asking for, which I like the data. I'm really, sometimes an answer just comes screaming out of me of what I have to say to them. And sometimes I'm like, I don't like that answer. Let's not say that to this person. And my whole being will say, no, you're going to tell them that this is the problem. And what's interesting is in this life, a lot of times the data sets I'm pulling from, I'll sit in a consultation and I will have libraries of information that I can see in my mind. And I'm like, you're only 44. Like, you didn't read those books. You didn't study that. And according to my teacher who I work with in Priestess, she's like, you've been in the Ayurvedic lineage for millennia. You were a medicine woman long time ago. So have faith and trust that when you're here and now teaching this at the level you are, that knowledge and wisdom came through from all those times, and you're just accessing it as you share it. And that gave me a lot of faith to teach what I teach. So now I'm like, you know what? I teach Ayurveda for what people need now. I'm teaching Ayurvedic from a fusionary standpoint. Let's fuse East and West. Let's simplify it. If you do the simple way, you'll get those deeper benefits. And when you're ready for much deeper, we can go there. So it's a beautiful journey. Such a gift.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, these sort of I just blanket sensory perception is just a developmental skill. I just teach people the alchemy process, and it becomes revealed. Mostly the reason that people are deficient in their ability to create instant healing or manifestation, furthermore, deep into ritualistic magic, is because they're deficient in their elements.
Right.
There's normally an excess of efficiency. And once that is regulated, you'll get a very clear picture of your imagination will be supercharged. So things will become very vivid, and you will not be looking at things within the third eye. It will be with your eyes open, and the world around you will be enriched with this vivid ability. And your attention intention will be at a myopic level where through that concentration, you create instant activation of this unified state. So it's like anyone can achieve this self-realization. It's a matter of having a method to the madness. And I think a lot of people get a bite of the spiritual dragon, as I put it. I saw grandma, got a vivid dream, had a premonition. Oh my goodness, I could see dead people. These are all fantastic, self-evident moments, but then they're chasing it and they don't have a method to repeat it, which is the most important part, is a repeatability experiential moment that can be shown to you. So it's not a fleeting delusional state of psychosis, which is a commandeering of your attention.
True. And I think that's so beautiful that you teach people that, because to be able to repeatedly go back to our gifts or our tools to understand them better and then to utilize them in the service of humanity is a big deal. Like, to me, you said the word Shakti. Shakti is feminine goddess energy, and Shakti is no joke. When I tune into Shakti and my goddess, I feel infinite. I feel like I have infinite ability to impact and teach. And the potency of that power it's almost addictive. So as a mother and as a lot of roles I have, a wife, I step out of all of that usually just to live my normal life. But when I tune into it, it's like, okay, That is an incredible flow state to be in and to call in and magnetize all that I wish for. So a lot of times when I show up at a conference, there's so many energies. And if you're sensitive to energy, it's a lot to process. So I simultaneously walk in putting boundaries, energetic boundaries in place to not be affected by so many people. And I tune into what is my intention? Who do I get to meet who's magical? And what kind of magic do we get to create together?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Psychometry, psychokinesis, the ability to, determine through precognition that this is valid, this has substance. And, a lot of my friends are parapsychologists, they're physicists. So we have these very interesting conversations because it's a spiritual self-evidence. I'm a Pepsi challenge guy from the 80s. So I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anyone. I want you to show me what you got. I want to see it, because if I had a penny for the amount of what people call miracles, it's super normal. I've been witnessing it for close to 40 years. I think my addiction was started with witnessing, gangrenous flesh turn back to pink in color in 40 minutes. I've seen tumors disappear, bones fuse, gashes sealed before my very eyes. These are normal, super normal, a witnessing of a unification of now moment, but it cannot come from identity. The finite mind is bankrupt. It's empty. There's nothing there. So when you use your intellect to commandeer your attention intention, you will forever be in lack of, as opposed to the now moment, which we call the unified state, which you would call, all things. There is no present or future. There's just now, which doesn't require your participation. So there's no place, no person, no thing. And then you will be remembering that you are whole because you'll witness that. But that's that potential, the currency we call energy. That is the currency of this material state. And through that, you create, through your attention intention, this energy potential, this currency that has a vibratory frequential resonance. Right. And then you gravitate to that. And I love the way that you speak on there's so many different energies. I mean, there's an infinite amount of spirits and energies in this, materialized state, that you are bringing immortality to what we would call a three-dimensional reality from a physicist's perspective. But, this is the crafting and the creation. And there's nothing more powerful than seeing and witnessing this magnificent human condition that is realized as an ascended level. So for a Taoist, it's like physical body, energy body, spiritual body, sun body, earth body, moon body, oneness body, ultimate body. That charge you got right there, that's it. And then ultimately the being with all things. The highest level of ascension is realizing that reality is a bellows. You are contracting and expanding at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same time. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find that center point, that vesica, which is unification. Your Sherlock to your Watson, True. My dear Watson.
True.
I love the way that you're integrating that. Yeah. I see this magic that's emanating from you, that golden. So from an alchemical process, gold is a very high ascended level of mastery. And people speak on that, and you see it in their field. You can go over human history and you document it through ancient indigenous practices, the golden halo. This is not something that is just made up in your mind. This is ascended levels and evidence of that through someone else's observation of their own alchemical process. And I see that within you, but you already know this. And it's part of that mastery that you bring that together through the science, which is a language. It's nothing more than a language.
Right.
As opposed to your ancient indigenous practices that you unify with.
Yeah.
It's so very exciting.
Yeah. I think we all evolve and ascend with our teachings, and that takes time. It takes our own, obviously, self-evolution. And so it's interesting to me that Ayurveda said it from the beginning. Of course, I'm so into physical health based on my family history. So I went for the physical first. But now, as I've taught Ayurveda for 10 years plus, it's like, okay, and I've studied it for over 20. If you can just understand how to bring different practices into place, it's just like a spiritual practice. But I'm starting it at the level of a health practice, starting at the level of giving you something golden that's healing, so that you may feel so much better and go deeper into the rituals around self love and self care, and thus weave into your self alignment. Like you are creating the alignment. Now, if you are meant to have a spiritual life in this life, and spiritual evolution is up to you, I have no sovereignty over someone else. All I am is the introductory teacher into that path. And my hope is that people will take this physical, mental, and emotional alignment and take it up to that next level. I can't control it, but I always just try to inspire everyone. Just, you can create anything. And if I help you, just help you a little, feel incredible. Imagine, what would you do with that unlimited potential and energy? In my case, I use it to impact, because that to me is the highest expression I can have in this life. And I'm so curious if we can help the world just feel better, get out of pain, not be inflamed, not be bogged down by the physical body. How much more can we all create a world of light and joy and happiness? And maybe I'm a childlike optimistic, but I really do think that that is the possible ending of us all embodying and incorporating these incredible ancient wisdoms.
Yes, I concur. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, when you say that, it brings me to, what we call the Taoist rights, the Taoist path of self-realization, from a seeker to a knower. And you do that through the mastery. And furthermore, you become selfish to become selfless. And that sacrifice will be realized through, as you ascend, the finite ego state, the personality becomes a default in the background, as opposed to your realization of your true nature, which is selflessness and servitude. And that will present itself as you raise humanity's awareness and reuniting humanity with the sentience that is within everyone. That is the superpower, the divinity, and it will reveal itself through empathy, this unconditional love that will be shared. It's not a hallmark throwaway. It's an ascended state of awareness that will transmute from a subjective, which is always an entry level, where you may look at it like razor blades and bunny rabbits, as opposed to unicorns and rainbows. And through your gratitude, you will nurture that and reveal and accept everything as now, which is perfection manifest.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. In closing, I know that you're running short for time and you're going to get the kiddos.
Yeah.
What is your projected research and development for 2025, and where do you see the uniting of turmeric as a healing tool in this current societal dismay? Because I mean, quite frankly, people are a little distracted with most of their spleen and their gallbladder energy, and they're just highly anxious, high beta. Their brainwaves are out of control, add a little caffeine and sugar, and they're just psychotic.
Yeah.
Where do you see that in the timeline of the present and future?
I see turmeric having its heyday. Turmeric has already risen to becoming so known in the mainstream. People talk about it. But like everything that goes through its cycles, now there's this rise in awareness of quality, potency, sourcing. How is it grown? What is the intention? How clean? Is it a mega conglomerate, a global conglomerate putting this thing together who doesn't care about us? Or is it someone who does? And so I think that really powerful awareness around natural health, natural living, natural remedies, a little anti-pharmaceutical being the only toolkit available, is actually a really good moment to be in, because now not only are Western medicine doctors saying, hey, we need alternatives, our stuff has side effects, but the integrative space is looking for brands they can trust, companies they can trust, third-party testing, While in India, when I go to India and meet with suppliers, botanicals are being studied and tested, and publications are being written on them, just like the pharmaceutical ingredients. So it's like this rise of, let's rise to the table of what everyone needs to see and understand. Let's increase the quality and potency of what we're growing for the strains to give us what we need. And then my dream is, can I publish more science on this to make this so compelling and irrefutable across all the different struggles we have as people, across all our different health conditions and problems? And that's going to take a lot of funding. It's going to take some time. I'm not going to say it's going to take the rest of my life, but it will take a little time in my life to get the energy, the people, and the funding to study all of that. But that's okay, because I think there's millions of us who are passionate about Ayurvedic botanicals, all these herbs and spices, and their power for our health. So my 2025 is all about teaching and sharing for my book launch in 2026. And my whole world is about getting in front of people and saying, turmeric works. You just have to use it at the right level of potency to drive a result. And that's a beautiful place to be, where the world's ready to hear it and I'm ready to share it. So that's my 2025, and probably my next decade, is writing books, writing papers, studying, and sharing turmeric and different herbs with the world.
That's an incredible mandate. I love it. I love it. It really does encompass the sort of transmuted now moment. My teacher, Latsu, who's been in commune with me second by second for the last 36 years, and I transmit his wisdom teaching on a daily basis, is very much in tune with that, what some people would call the Schumann resonance, the frequency of the earth, and furthermore, how much more grounding that's becoming. And we're getting rid of the distorted beta frequency, 12 to 18 hertz frequency, and moving past that consciously through your wisdom teaching, bringing in what we call a new age of 40 to 60 hertz, which within the measurement of my brainwave, that's where I see physical healing. When I measure my brainwaves, that's when I witness it. So if that's a collective, and through your teaching and what seems to be a consensus from all these incredible healers that I have conversations with, it's going to be an incredible new world that we're looking at, because it's raising that vibratory state. And the evidence is in the frequency and the resonance, and the ability that we can have more of these conversations, and you experience it. It's a visceral, kinesthetic, somatic. No one that listens to my conversations thinking it's a bunch of talking heads. There is a physical response from this conversation that is being emanated through this, and you will experience it on an energetic level. And that's what I love about this conscious wisdom teaching that we have, and the interweb and what it offers, because I can speak with masters like yourself, sharing this with the rest of the world and remembering who they are. In closing, I would ask you, the functional medicine, I've got a lot of students that are doctors of Chinese medicine, doctors of functional medicine, if that's even a thing. I think they're just functional medicine doctors, but there's a few. I've got quite a few students that are world-renowned functional medicine doctors. There's incredible aspects to that, but then you fall into the spiritual stuff that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
How do we cross over? Because there needs to be more understanding. I'm dealing with quite a few as a consultant for many telemedicine opportunities where they're integrating this insight, because you use the embodiment of the thought, feeling, and emotion and take the vehicle of sound and imprint it or imbue it into the neurology of the body, and having instant results.
Wow. Amazing.
That in of itself for you, how do you end? Because I mean, you're on that spiritual path, you're teaching it. I'm experiencing it right now. I know it to be true because you're emanating it.
Right. It's interesting. I know that the vibration of Ayurveda and its teachings are meant to spread around the world. I get to be one conduit. There's so many incredible teachers of it in the past and in the current and in the future. I definitely see a role for functional medicine meets Ayurveda. And so I decided in this year, I'm going to go ahead and do a functional medicine certification and become a practitioner of it, purely because I love the level of diagnostic and testing and tools that they use. But as a person who has gone to many functional medicine doctors to understand my health better, I know completely the hole that exists in functional medicine where Ayurveda is the perfect complement. And so I already know that in the future, I've already called it in, I'll build something called the Fusionary Health Platform, where I get to have the practitioners to handle that piece, which I will know and understand, because it's important to know and understand anything you're going to teach about. But the Ayurvedic wisdom has to come and hold the space for, okay, we told you what was wrong. We helped you heal it. But if you don't bring the entire grounding lifestyle practice into place, you're going to end up right back where you started. And you're going to create the same problems again and again. And so Ayurveda needs to hold that space of true Eastern medicine that loves all the integrative modalities. There's traditional Chinese medicine, the spiritual aspects, really weaving it together as the perfect next step after functional medicine. It can be before, but after you're working with a lot more data on the body, you're getting in there and figuring out what you need to heal and get in place. And Ayurveda is a big piece of that healing and then holding of those results. So that's that. I already see that. I hope I get to do it next year. We'll see. I don't control the timelines, but I'm already calling it in as I need to serve in that way, because for the level of disease and suffering I see, I can't just sit by and let it continue. But sometimes you have to appeal to the Western mind to get them to understand, hey, let me show you the slice you're talking about, and then let me actually show you the bigger picture to win at this.
Oh, that's so exciting, my dear friend. In closing, I'm going to ask you one question.
Sure.
What is your definition of spiritual consciousness?
Oh, spiritual consciousness to me is bliss. When I know it, I know when I'm exactly in the alignment, body, mind, and spirit in alignment, and then rising above that, there's this universal bliss that you can experience and hold. That to me is spiritual consciousness, just tapping into that and being with that.
That was magical, as is hundreds of podcasts have never had the same answer, as I should not, because you're a facet of the diamond of perfection, and we all have our own incredible insight to that mastery. I want to thank you, my dear friend, for coming on here and sharing your wisdom teaching and your ancient and, quite relevant contemporary offerings of this incredible mastery right now. And furthermore, I'm going to put your social sphere and interweb under this podcast. And I want people to go out and, this is a normal script. My students, disciples, 126ers, subscribers. Now, 126ers, that's an interesting divine sort of state. I developed an app that puts you into this state and activates your energy centers. And you go from a zero to a hero. In less than 9 weeks, you master your emotions. If you never do anything again, you walk away with this imprinted state that masters your neurology that will never leave you. And that's what most people do. They want to be the, architect to their architecture. So just in case you're like, what is a 126? There you go. So I want you to go out and experience what Dr. Gupta is offering. And I'm very grateful to have you as a friend, my dear friend, and hopefully we'll continue this conversation in the future. I would love to dive deeper into your exploration and your research and findings and helping humanity.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. I love this conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. And I am your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master San Qing. And I'll see you in the next one, guys.